Welcome, Solara here. I hope you guys are doing well. I am recording about 24 hours after the full moon in Aquarius. I apologize for doing this a day late, but yesterday I just needed that time for myself, and even today I'm still kind of in a full moon hangover, but I wanted to get this out here in a timely manner. So I thank you guys for your patience with me. I thank you to those of you who headed over to my Substack to read what I'd written already about these energies in my collaboration with Dini Peachel of the Starfire Codes, as well as the piece I wrote yesterday on Sunrise Salutations, because there's a lot of stuff kicking up around this full moon, and we'll be continuing to kick up. And we'll get into that shortly. Before I do that, I want to make a couple of announcements very quickly so that I can get that out of the way. Today is Tuesday, August the 20th. Tomorrow, Wednesday, August the 21st, I have my regular midweek group check-in session with live card pull and personal guidance. I meet a few people, whoever wants to join me, every Wednesday, and we get together and we chat, and you can come and share what's going on with you, get some personal guidance from me, get a card pulled, also a channeled message, however you want to receive the guidance, as well as interact with other beings going through a lot of similar stuff. It's a way to support one another and get guidance in real time. In a way that doesn't make you feel as if you have to have a one-to-one. So I put this out here for the collective, and I invite you to make the most of it. So tomorrow, and then I have it again next Wednesday the 28th. On Thursday the 22nd, I have my final small group Tarotstrology group with a focus on the sun and the moon. This is the third time I've hosted this group in Cancer and Leo season, and now I believe it's going to be happening on the last day of Leo season, or maybe even the first day of Virgo season, but we're focusing on the contracts that are articulated through your chart via your sun and your moon placement. And your sun is to do with the contracts with your father, paternal line, and the moon is to do with your contracts with your mother, your maternal line, as well as the stories around what has been perpetually wounding you through these false matrix cycles across timelines. In other words, what stories and emotions the moon has been storing and that they've been tapping into to use against you since the inception of the matrix. The moon also shows that story, okay? And then we speak about rising from all of that and what your astrology has to say about that. So there are 7 spots in total. I think there may be about 3 left at this point. So if you're interested, Thursday the 22nd, I will put all the information in the description box below. I believe it's at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. UK. And on Saturday the 24th of August, I am hosting another group called Alchemising Anger, Embracing Your Shadow as Your Protector. Because your shadow is there to protect your light. Without your shadow, you're open to being harvested. So I hosted this gathering last Saturday, the first one I did on the 17th, and I'm doing a second installment of that on the 24th. It was a beautiful time. If you're interested in that, you want to become more comfortable with tuning into your shadow and very specifically anger and getting over any hang-ups you have around that in order to properly protect your light, I invite you to join us on Saturday also. For those of you who are my members on Substack, we have our regular monthly group Q&A on Sunday also. For those of you who are interested in what I do on Substack, I offer a monthly and an annual membership, as well as a membership where you can just chill out and be there for free and get some content. But for those of you who are interested in supporting and wanting to have a monthly or an annual membership over at Substack, that comes with the 5 times a week sunrise salutation, Throwback Thursday, a word for your week, which is going out to you live today by video. I think it's going to be this time around. It's either video or audio. And then every month we get together for our group Q&A, where, you know, it's very similar to the midweek check-in. We check in with one another. We talk about what's going on in Ascension. It's a healing group, a deeply healing space. Also, these spaces are designed very specifically for those of us who have been in hermit mode and have fear and ambivalence about rejoining. So these groups have proven to be very healing to many of us, to many people who, you know, we've all had our issues with people and groups, and it's time to get reassimilated back into being able to be around one another again. So that's kind of the purpose of these groups also, even with all of the various themes aside. So I look forward to seeing a few of you this week, and a few more familiar faces also. Again, I have a few regulars at this point, and I love seeing when you guys sign up. So I look forward always to interfacing with you. Okay, well, I want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you if you're visiting for the first time. Thank you if you're returning. Thank you if you come over from Solara Speaks, whether my Substack or my other YouTube channel. Thank you for all the ways that you guys show up, show out, love, and support me. If you're new here, if you're new in these here parts, let me just put out my disclaimer. I'm not here for everyone. If you don't like me, that's okay. I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to agree with me. I find my validation in myself, so that's all good. But what I do need you to do is to be respectful of my space. This is my space, so if you're going to come and partake of the information that I am freely giving away, I expect to be respected in my space, and for everyone else in my community to also be respected. And if you can't adhere to that, then for one thing, you definitely are in the wrong space. If you can't adhere to something that simple, okay, you're in the wrong frequential address. And furthermore, I love the block button. Okay, and I'm not afraid to call people out and put you on my community board if you get real stupid. Okay, so, okay. Anyway, let's get into the energies of yesterday's full moon in Aquarius. Alrighty, so since I last saw you, the new moon in Leo, we've had the 888 portal occur, and then last week we had a Mars-Jupiter conjunction. There was something else. Is it Jupiter and Saturn were squaring one another or something? I think that's what happened too. I'm not a classical astrologer. That's not how I read energy. I use astrology to read the picture, but I'm not an astrologer. So I know some of the lingo, but not all of it. So I think there was like a square or something between Jupiter and Saturn through this full moon, but we'll get into it. I still pick up on the energies. I just pick up on it a little bit differently, and that's, it's all good. Okay, so let's get into this. So yesterday, when the moon reached its fullness, it was at 27 degrees Aquarius, which of course means the sun was at 27 degrees Leo. So presently, as I hit record, the moon was at 11 degrees Pisces. I love it when I tune in and I get that 11 degree mastery number. And the sun is at 28 degrees Leo. So we're closing out Leo season now. The sun is about to enter into that 29 degree sweet spot in a couple of hours, where she's going to be chilling at the fixed star of Regulus. And this is where a lot of this energy from yesterday's full moon has been taking us. There have been other things that have been opening the door for this meeting of the sun at Regulus, which happens, of course, every single year at the 29 degree point of Leo. But this year, everything's a little bit more magnified, especially when it comes to dealing with Leo energy, because Leo energy is one of the underpinning energies of the year and of the age. And the reason for that is because 2024, it is a number 8 year. So astrologically, it has connections to Scorpio energy, but in terms of tarot, it's connected to the strength card of Leo. So very strong Leo-Scorpio themes occurring this year. And furthermore, because we are transitioning into the age of Aquarius, Aquarius is Leo's sister sign, and the previous golden age, that was kind of the other part of the bread that is a sandwich, and then the false matrix was the filling in the middle, right? So the false matrix occurred between this new golden age that is rising, the age of Aquarius, and the previous golden age, which is the age of Leo, which means that the inception point of the wound that caused our own destruction, dysfunction, descension into the state that we find ourselves ascending out of now occurred through the Leo energy. And if you know anything about energy and cycles, you've been chilling with me for a while, you know that the way something enters is the same way it must leave. Before an energy leaves, it will always come back to the very same themes of its inception point. And if you want to see that illustrated in real time, check out a clock and how every single day it goes back to that 12 o'clock part to start again. It will go around and around and around and around. There are little cycles within that big 24-hour cycle, but the start of a new day, the close of the old one, it's always at the same point, that 12 o'clock point, right? You could say that with astrology too, except we are moving now. Astrology hopefully is evolving, or it should be evolving. It should be moving. It's not supposed to be this stagnant thing that it was made into being. In fact, some of the downloads I've been receiving, I'm not afraid to speak on this now anymore, is that the houses should also be shifting at this point. For one thing, we have a 13th sign, which makes more sense since we do have 13 moons every year, and 13 is the number of the Divine Mother, one of her numbers, the Divine Feminine. But just like we evolve, the planets evolve, the zodiac signs evolve, everything is supposed to be in a state of evolution. Everything in the false matrix was designed to get you stuck, get me stuck into looping in the same energy again and again, including astrology. So the download that I got recently is that, and you don't have to agree with me again, you don't have to agree, I'm just putting it out there for those of you who might resonate. But my guides were speaking to me and saying to me that the first house should not be Aries at this point. It should now be Pisces. Because every time you shift into a different age, the houses should be shifting too. In other words, the wisdom that we accrued through the age of Pisces should now be crowning us as we move through this new era, this new age, this new cycle. But, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm just sharing what it is that's been coming forth for me, okay? And this is also why I don't ascribe to traditional methods, schools, models of astrology. This is why my guides didn't have me go down that route, because it's time for everything and everyone to be given the rightful space that they need and they deserve to evolve and become who and what they actually are. And this is actually a big theme of this full moon in Aquarius. So if you know anything about Aquarian energy, we've been talking a lot over the past couple of years in the spiritual community, and now it's moved more into mainstream conversation, this big A word, authenticity. And I wrote about this in the collaboration I did with Demi yesterday, where I spoke about how that word being authentic has, it has something to do with, showing up and being who you are, but it's so much deeper than the presentation of that. The false matrix loves to get us obsessed with presentation instead of substance, because when we get obsessed with how things appear and how things look, then we're fucked. We get fucked into a cycle, and I'll tell you why. Because it's not as without, so within. It's as within, so without. It's not as below, so above. It's as above, so below. In other words, what creates the material reality that we see, we touch, we feel, the appearance of things, what creates that is all that goes on behind the scenes invisibly. So if we want to actually show up authentically in the world as we are cosmologically, we must do the deep soul work of coming back into union with self. We can't slap on some backdrops, get a couple of plants, get some crystal towers, and say that we're living authentically, our authentic truth. No, if you haven't been through multiple dark nights of the soul where you've stripped yourself bare of all of the programming and all of the shit that had you living apart from yourself for millennia, not just this lifetime, millennia, and that history, her story, those stories live in your cells, your cellular memory, your makeup. Okay? If you haven't done that work, then you're not living authentically. You're just putting on another facade, right? And so there's a lot of that that's been going on. This full moon in Aquarius is further stripping that away. Okay, now this Mars and Gemini energy, I love it when Mars enters Gemini. I believe the last time, don't quote me on this, but if I remember correctly, the last time Mars was rolling through Gemini, I think it was 2 years ago. I think it was in 2022, because I remember writing about it around Leo season. I think it may have been retrograding, I forget. I could be wrong, but I do remember some kind of Mars and Gemini energy in 2022 in the summer. Anyway, Mars comes to put things right, and it comes to put things right by fighting. In other words, when Mars comes and rolls through to bring a message, Mars is that parent who already told you to do something 5 times, and now you've tested the limit and it's going to get done in a way that maybe you don't like, but if you had listened to the first 5 warnings, you wouldn't be dealing with this right now. So this is great news for those of us. It's great news for if you're in alignment with truth, if you've gotten your divine mind back, but if you haven't, you're fucked, okay? Because Mars in Gemini is here to break the mind control. It's here to break the mind control party up. It's here to clear the stage of the mental parasites that have been being used in order to control our mental reality, because understand and overstand, the false matrix was run off of mental magic. The only reason our emotions would align with that is through the constant traumatizing using mental magic that was that they rooted and established. Their systems, their institutions, their social, religious, community dogmas were all established upon the mental magic they needed to infiltrate us on the mental planes, to mind control us and get us to drop our own frequency by following them. Okay, I know that's a mouthful, but why am I talking about Mars when we haven't even looked at the sun and the moon? Because this Gemini energy, it's very pronounced and expressed right now through Mars and Jupiter, but yesterday's full moon in Aquarius was at a Gemini degree. 27 is a degree of Gemini. Furthermore, if you break that down, 2 plus 7, that breaks down to a 9. That's a degree of Sagittarius, and it is a Virgo energy in the tarot. And most importantly, 9 means the end. 9 is liberation. 9 is the removal of something out of the group. Okay, the separation of something, the liberation. That's what the hermit is, when we separate ourselves from everything else in order to go within and reconnect with the sun, the Leo energy, with the truth of who we are, with our soul's truth, with the sun, our souls, in order to find our way forward. Okay, so this moon, although it's in Aquarius, there's a lot of Gemini energy flying and a lot of Gemini energy underpinning. And whenever you have heavy Gemini energy, Gemini transits, this Gemini degree, you will always be dealing with themes of information and self-expression and how that is monitored or how that is controlled. And because we're dealing with a full moon in Aquarius that has to do with how we take ourself, Leo energy, how we take ourself out into the group, into humanity, and we shine and we do what it is we came here to do. We're of service to one another, that's what the Gemini energy is about, right? Whenever you're dealing with the Gemini energy when it comes to something like the Aquarian age, what you're going to see as we continue to clear out the old world agendas is a lot of the headbutting that comes from beings who are still not comfortable. They haven't done the healing work of becoming sovereign over their own minds and over their own energy, and therefore needing to pull other people into their way of thinking, their way of being, to validate themselves, because they don't know how yet to do it internally. So those are definitely some themes. In that sense, there will be there are and there will be energies that speak about, peer pressure, group dynamics, especially also because we're dealing with Aquarius, how that plays out online. For those of you who were chilling with me on Substack, you know that yesterday's Sunrise Salutation was a whole piece on how your stalkers are not your supporters, and the monitoring spirits and the way beings like to lurk and pull you down, and the fake love and the hateration that goes on in these online forums that is just an extension of the fucked up, discordant ways that we've been taught to interact with one another in inauthentic ways. So what I was talking about a lot yesterday was these beings very specifically who like to pretend to support you, pretend to like you, and meanwhile they can't stand your ass, and you feel it. Frequentially you feel it, but they're saying one thing with their mouths and feeling something and thinking other things. And that's a dangerous place to be when you don't actually know where you stand with another person, because it means that you will constantly be under psychic attack. And you'll constantly be under psychic attack because when a person is not being real with you, with how they actually feel, and they can't stand your ass, they're smiling in your face, they're confusing the fuck out of you because they're saying the right things, but you're feeling like it ain't right. And so that causes you to question your own reality. So there's a lot of that happening right now. Gemini also deals with this third house energy where we are here to be one another's authentic mirrors. We're not here to mirror back something false to other beings because for our own agendas, or for in a lot of these situations, the reason that occurs is because people have vitriol in their hearts towards others, but because of their own sensitive egos, they don't know what it is to confront that aspect of themselves because they have so much shame around the possibility that they could hate or envy someone. Okay, and here's the truth about that. Every one of us has had to deal with those heavy energies because we were programmed purposely into them by the false matrix's pursuits to make us envious of other beings, by belittling us, putting others on pedestals. All of that was designed to make us all feel like we're not enough. So anyone, what's the most dangerous people that I have ever kind of, related to, and I stay away from them now, are the ones who cannot admit their shortcomings, the ones who will deny that they have these things or that they've experienced these things. I'm not a jealous person. I'm not an envious person. Okay. Well, either you're a liar or you haven't yet seen that part in yourself because you're in denial. But for as long as you're in denial, you're a dangerous person. I joke about it with my kids. A person in denial of their shadow is like a baby rattlesnake. That's baby rattlesnake energy. You know why I say that? Because a baby rattlesnake is venomous as fuck, but doesn't know how to gauge its prey to know how much venom it's supposed to give at any given point, which means that oftentimes it overshoots. An adult rattlesnake has learned enough through experience to know how to gauge up the size of any prey and recognize how much poison it's going to take to put them down. An adult rattlesnake even knows if poison is necessary, because sometimes they bite but they don't sink their teeth in. Okay, they just need you to realize, I'm a fucking rattlesnake, back up, right? Okay, so a baby rattlesnake is more dangerous oftentimes than an adult rattlesnake because it doesn't know its power, it doesn't know its venom. Okay, so beings who run around who don't know what they are capable of are the scariest fuckers ever, because those are exactly the ones that these entities like to use their channels to attack other beings through their thoughts, through their feelings, that they will then sit down, look you in the eye, and deny. Dangerous. Okay? And the false matrix wanted us living like that because it knew how we worked energetically, that if it made appearance everything, if it made how we appear to others and even how we appear to our egoic selves everything, that we would constantly be in a state of not only psychically attacking other beings, but also attacking self. Because understand and overstand that there is nothing that anyone can direct towards someone that they're not already first doing to self. Okay, so this energy of yesterday's full moon in Aquarius and all of this heavy Gemini energy is highlighting those places in our hearts that we always want to run from, we want to pretend aren't there, those places in our hearts that we need to see, those places in other beings' hearts that they want to run from, pretend isn't there, and then in doing so fuck us over, fuck us up in the mind, and mess with our timelines and mental health because of that. It's time for all of that shit to be gone. And the beings who still want to play in those deceptive games, what's coming next is going to really fuck them over. Okay, so right now, what's being honed through this full moon in Aquarius is our discernment. But here's the kicker. Here's when shit gets real fun, right? Because understand and overstand that as Mars moves through Gemini, as we're going through this really intense ascension energy, it is destroying the very seed point that created the templates that allowed, sorry about the helicopter out there, that allowed for these mind control energies to run the planet and to run us to begin with. So when you are letting go of something, when something is falling apart, it doesn't just disappear, right? Like for those of you who were hanging out with me in Leo season with the full moon in Aquarius, you might remember that that was a time 6 months ago when a lot of the timelines, we went through this colossal collective timeline collapse. And anytime there's a huge timeline collapse, it feels like you're swimming through multiple timelines and possibilities. And it's like you got to get in where you fit in and catch the timeline that you can. Okay, now fast forward 6 months on, we're closing out Leo season, and we are just coming out of the full moon in Aquarius that's ended that cycle. And we find ourselves in very similar energies of collapse, but for a different reason. Right now, it's not only timelines that are collapsing generically, but very specifically the timelines that supported our mental imprisonment and our mind control. Okay, and the mind control and mental imprisonment templates, agendas of the false matrix were run off of fear, predominantly. Guilt and shame, yes, also. As you know, I call that the trauma trifecta. Fear, guilt, and shame. But fear is the dominant energy they use to keep us in check. Okay? Fear, as an emotion, keeps you from moving past. I will always say it's kind of like fear will create a frequency fence. All emotions create different energetic fences, you could say. And I should say more the lower vibrational create fences, like they create boundaries. This is the importance of embracing and integrating your shadow, because there are fences, defenses you need around yourself that for as long as you are not accepting things like your anger and knowing how to wield it, you're leaving yourself open for your higher energy, your resources to be harvested, because literally those lower vibrational energies create defenses. They create frequency fences around you where certain energies cannot cross because they're afraid to come close to you. as it should be. Energies that are designed to pull you out of your truth, to pull you out of harmony with self and source, are not supposed to pass those barriers. They should tremble at the thought of trying to come close to you and to fuck around with your balance, right? So fear has a very real purpose energetically, otherwise it wouldn't exist. But the false matrix took that and they flipped it around in their inverted, fucked up, perverted way of emulating source's creative processes, and therefore used these frequency fences made of fear to keep us locked in ourselves, to keep us trapped. So now, when all of the mind control agendas, all of this stuff is falling, especially as we relate to one another in a group, that's the Aquarian energy of the moon, as well as the age, all of the fear stories, the fear-based entities, the fear-run parasite energies, all of those are like running amok. Energetically speaking, there are fear thought forms, emotional forms, parasites, entities, stories, all of those fear-based timelines, they're all flying right now. And here's the thing, only beings who know who they are divinely are going to get through that storm. You can't get through that storm if you don't know who you are, because you'll get lost in it. You'll get lost in it because you'll believe the things that are falling. You'll believe in the fear-based story because you never confronted the fear within yourself. You never confronted the truth about yourself. And so there's a scripture in the Bible. It says, in the last days, men's hearts will fail them from fear. And this is what it is right now. And I've said this, I said this in a piece I wrote not long ago also on Substack. I said, this last battle, this Armageddon that you hear so much about, it's not a battle that you're going to see. The Armageddon is internal. It's internally. It's the battle between yourself, who you truly are authentically as a divine being, versus every single lie across time that kept you out. And right now, that battlefield is in the mind, as all of the mind control energies collapse. And maybe you felt this begin around the 888 portal, because as we got closer to this full moon in Aquarius, that energy began to pick up. Okay, and it will continue, especially as Mars and Jupiter make their way through Gemini. This energy is going to continue to kick up. And then once the sun enters Virgo, also Virgo energy is here to help us to discern the craziness of what's happening in the mental planes by being able to use the light of our hearts using the Leo energy, which is why, and I've been writing about this a lot on Substack through Leo season. Leo season is always about coming back into alignment with your heart's truth. And when you do that, your heart is a light. Your heart is your guide. Your heart is what shines your way through everything. Okay? And Leo is the sign of the zodiac that reconnects you with the heart of God, the heart of Source. Aries is the sign of the zodiac that reconnects you with the mind of God, the mind of Source, your divine truth, your I am truth. Who you are cosmologically is accessed through your Aries energy, which is represented in your chart as your ascendant. We all have Aries energy. It's your ascendant. Okay? It doesn't mean your ascendant is in Aries, but it is your Aries energy. It is what crowns you. It is who you are. Okay, so when you know who you are divinely, and when you are in alignment with who you are divinely based upon the deep internal heart connection with self and Source that comes through Leo, then come Libra season, your fields can be alchemized in such a way that nothing outside of you can shake you. In other words, you become impenetrable to other forces seeking to command your consciousness and energy harvest you. But you cannot be completely at one with your mind and your heart if you are discarding any part of yourself, including those things you were taught by the false matrix are bad. So you were taught it's bad to feel this way, it's bad, but every single emotion you have is a message showing you where you're out of alignment and how to come back authentically in alignment. So when we deny, when you deny, when I deny that we feel something, then what we're ultimately consenting to is being out of alignment with ourselves and our truth, which then opens us up to be harvested, opens us up to be commanded, opens us up to be under various mind control agendas, just to a certain degree, and completely unconscious of it too. So this moon in Aquarius is really helping us to dismantle, especially a lot of the group think, the group dynamics, the group, the ways that we think in accordance with fitting into groups, like I said, the peer pressure, the way that we think because of our exposure to groups, and the first group you have exposure to that actually begins your mind control process is your family, and then it's it's your wider community in school. This is what Gemini speaks to also. It speaks about those energies that establish your mind, foundationally speaking, the external energies. Okay, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, that first quarter of the zodiac wheel, it's all about the establishment of your divine mind. Okay, so think back to Gemini season also, because themes that were happening through that season will also be coming up through this full moon also. Okay, like I said to my members on Substack also this week, pay attention to the themes from the closing of Cancer season, that last full moon, because you've gone through a full lunar cycle. There will be issues, stories, cycles wanting your attention that came up then. And then on the grander scale, the grander cycle, look back to the new moon in Aquarius, what was going on for you then. There will be themes and stories repeating themselves for you to close them out now. On a grander scale, think back to where you were a year ago. And because we're dealing with a lot of 2020 and 2022 timelines, think back to 2020 and 2022 and what was happening for you around this time in those years also. Because in 2020 and 2022, through the Leo energy, was when a lot of them, and they do this every year, but especially, since 2020 when everything began to speed up, was a lot of the time where the harvesting would occur again, like big time. And harvesting is like when they pull you into lower timelines. Okay, so that happened August of 2020, August of 2022, this year, 2024. A lot of what was lost through the harvesting and the pulling down through 2020 and 2022 fuckery is coming back around for you to get back, for as long as you are in mental and emotional alignment with your truth in order to get it back. I hope that makes sense. Now, another thing I've been picking up on, especially today, in the collective energy, in the aftermath of the full moon, is that because there's a lot of collapsing of those fear-based energies, entities, agendas, stories that supported the mind control constructs of the false matrix, and because we're being called to be very discerning, there will also be a lot of paranoia. Okay? Paranoia occurs when we become afraid of something. But here's the thing, okay? The more aligned and centered you are in your truth and yourself, the less fear you should court. In other words, when you are rooted and centered in yourself and your truth and your own energy, you gain back the universal protections that you lost. And part of that comes from having your shadow protecting you again. Okay? So beings who fall into paranoia are ones who still are courting these energies of fear because they forget that they have nothing to be afraid of. It doesn't matter at this point what somebody or something else tries to do to you deceptively, because if you know who you are and you stand your ground, those energies are going to have to deal with the karmic justice of what it is they're trying to bring in your fields anyway. In fact, right now, if you're feeling strong enough, it's a really good time to stand so strongly in your energy that you allow these assholes that want to harvest you to think that they are. Let them think that they are. And in the meantime, as they think that they're doing that, take back everything that they're trying to take from you again in this cycle, and take it back sevenfold as per universal law, Saturnian logic. If that vibes with you, take it on back. You see, every single time these beings attack you, you have the possibility, you have the opportunity to take your shit back. Every single time. And if you're playing the game by now and you know what they're up to and they think that they've got one over you, then you use that intelligence of what it is you know that they're up to, because universal law and karmic justice kicks in even more heavily when you know, which is why at every turn they want to keep what they're doing under the rug and hidden, because for as long as it's hidden, it's got more power on their side. But the minute you know what someone is trying to do against you, it already has lost its power. And if they think that you don't know, they still think they're moving in that power, which puts them in a naked position, not you. Okay? So, Mars and Gemini. Use this energy strategically. And this is the energy, let's get into the tarot breakdown of yesterday's full moon, because the moon was in Aquarius, which is the Fool card, and the Star card. Okay, so, but the 27-degree mark is the Seven of Swords. The Seven of Swords. We were in Seven of Wands and Seven of Swords energy, because the sun at 27 degrees in Leo, or the sun moving through the final decan of Leo, it is about strategy, warfare, protection. That's what the Seven of Wands is about. And why, oh why, would you need the Seven of Wands right after the Six of Wands, right after the 888 portal? Well, because you got your shit, you got things back. And now these energies want to play you and try to get your resources. So you've got to be one step ahead. That's the Seven of Swords. Seven of Swords is strategy. It's knowing how to use mental games and mind power to protect. Seven of Wands, what is yours? So if you are no longer indulging or engaging in the fear-based agendas that are designed to make you think, oh my gosh, they're coming to get me and take everything of mine, no more of that. No more of that, because if you know that's what they're doing, then you're actually in a really great position, for as long as you don't let the fear and the false story take you under. Because the false story is that they have a right to do that anyway, or that they're more powerful to do that than you are to defend and put on lock what rightfully belongs to you. You see, this is why this is Armageddon, because how much do you know your own worth? How much do you know your ability and your right to protect it? How much do you know about that right now? Because that's what's going to get you through this next cycle. Okay, so there's a lot of mind games happening right now. There's a lot of beings trying to put on a mask and pretend to be something they're not. There's a lot of even people who are succumbing to the fear, and they're collapsing internally also. And these people have done some of the most heinous things. And your desire might be to be very compassionate and empathetic, but that ship has sailed. I'm sorry, that's 6 of Swords, it's gone. It's 7 of Swords energy now, because when you were trying to make your way out away from them before, they kept on pursuing you, right? So you're not going to go back now and pretend like that didn't happen. We're not going to get amnesia. This is where that Gemini energy can fuck with you. Don't get amnesia. Don't get amnesia in terms of what other beings have done to you, and don't get amnesia in terms of forgetting who the fuck you are and your universal rights. Because right now, that energy of playing with this Gemini, very expansive mental energy that's here to free you from the illusions, wants to utilize smoke screens and mirrors still to try to pull you under. But you know what can't be fooled? Your heart. If you haven't fooled your own heart, nothing outside of you or any other being can fool you either. This is the importance of being in alignment. This is the significance of Leo energy. This is why Leo is about itself. Because if you're not about yourself, if you're not about tuning into your heart, what gratifies you, what saddens you, all of the things that you know emotionally belong to you, then how are you going to not succumb to the pressures of other beings and their own whims, their own unconscious wounding, all of the other crap that was used and enforced against us to keep us in this chaos energy that they needed us to be in the false matrix in order to control us with fear. How else are you going to do that? This is why you must know who you are, and you must trust what your heart is showing you. And in this energy, you must take the information of what your heart is showing you and use it strategically to defend yourself against those energies that seek to gaslight you in all manner of ways to try to get you into timelines that you don't fucking belong in. Okay? Alrighty. Whew. Okay, Mercury was in Leo at 26 degrees, retrograding back. Mercury a few days ago was at Regulus, regulating, putting things right. Regulus, I don't think I mentioned it before. I just kind of threw it out there like everyone knows what Regulus is. Regulus is the 29 degree Leo. It's a fixed star that lives at the 29 degree mark of Leo, okay? The closing degree of Leo. And not for nothing, every single 29 degree is a degree of Leo, funnily enough. So if you have 29 degrees of anything in your chart, or when it presents itself, it is a degree of Leo. The 29 degrees of Leo is where the fixed star Regulus sits, astrologically speaking, okay? And Regulus is the star that crowns the regulators. It's why it's called the royal star, meaning that in this false matrix, we had false leaders. We had leaders who were really self-appointed, appointed by those at the top of the pyramid to continue to run their drama and their fuckery, like to keep us under mind control, right? But the true appointed leaders on the earth are picked frequentially speaking, and Regulus has all of the records and the information. It's also why yesterday in the full moon in Aquarius, very, very important events happened on the political stage. Okay, every full and new moon, you'll notice that if you're in some parts of the world, you'll notice that a lot of resignations happen on new moons in politics. A lot of resignations on new and full moons, and a lot of appointing, like that information hits the news on a new or a full moon. And if you're not aware of how this works, you're just oblivious. But these assholes who've been running their fake stories and agendas to keep you and I under mind control, they know exactly what they're doing. They fucks with all the astrological transits, and they use it to exploit you and to create, to bolster their agendas, because understand and overstand energy is energy. Gemini energy can be used to help you expand your mind out of the fear constructs, but it can also be used to bring you so much confusion that it puts you in fear too. They use it to bring the confusion that puts you in fear. Okay, so any energy can be exploited for nefarious purposes. You can be exploited for nefarious purposes. You were. I was. Even if those nefarious purposes were just against self, it's still the same thing. Everything through this false matrix, including the planets and you, were exploited for nefarious purposes to keep their agendas alive and going. So Regulus, the fixed star of Regulus, is here to regulate, to reappoint those true guardians of the earth that have been asleep. Many of you have been asleep. You didn't know who you were, and you were asleep also because you were traumatized into sleep. You were kept into a lower frequency, kept bound by shame, which is the lowest frequency on the vibrational chart, kept locked in shame so you wouldn't rise up and wake up and remember that actually this is completely inverted, right? So the true guardians of this earth are rising through this Regulus energy, through Mercury traveling. This will be the second time Mercury's made its way through Regulus in the past, I think like month, because it went retrograde, and then when it goes back direct, it will move through Regulus for a third time. So for those of you who you want to be a little bit of a nerd like me, go and check out the astrology and see what days Mercury was at 29 degrees Leo. I think it may have been like maybe 3 days ago. And then check out the time it was a few weeks ago. And then check out when it goes direct, when it's going to go through that 29 degree mark of Leo again, because you'll see it's 3, right? The power of 3. Things are being put into order and into alignment. This is why on the world stage right now, if you have a real eye to see, everything is, they're scrambling. They're literally scrambling. Okay? And that's because there's new regulators, and not new regulators, let's say the primordial ones, the original ones, the true ones are back. And even last week, it was last week, Wednesday, I was falling asleep and I couldn't sleep that night. And all of a sudden, I was sharing this, I think, on my on Solara Speaks, my other channel. All of a sudden, I got a download, but a visual one, which, for me always has more impact because clairvoyance is not my strongest clair. So when I get those kinds of hits when I'm awake, they really have an impact on me, right? So I saw people getting back their dragon wings, okay? And I heard the grids are fully now back under our control. Confirmation. The grids are fully back under our control. Okay, so the grids are controlled by our emotions. That's why Cancer energy opens up that grid line energy, and it's materialized through Capricorn. The nodes. Not the nodes, I'm sorry, the tropics also on the map. Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn, and then the equatorial line. Cancer and Capricorn set the frequencies collectively on this planet. Cancer is the invisible energy of it. What sets it up, the material, meaning the emotional resonance. And then Capricorn is the materialization of it, as well as the contracts that are expressed through and by it. Okay, so the dragon energy, the dragon lines of the earth, begin to express themselves through Cancer, which is the 6 and the 9. That's the dragon head and the dragon tail. Leo is the dragon energy unfurling itself. Okay? And then we also have more dragon energy that comes through very strongly through Virgo and through Sagittarius also. So anyway, the dragon lines, the grid lines of the earth, they've lost all control over them at this point. That was the message that was coming through. And it would make sense, because it's time now. Any control that you think these beings still have is an illusion. And all they're doing right now is milking this Gemini energy, which is very powerful for creating smoke screens and mirrors to try to draw as many beings out and away from the truth as possible, which is why it's really important to know that what is happening right now that feels as if it's a return back to something old is not. It's the collapse of it. And because it's swimming everywhere in the atmosphere, it is there for you to connect to. It is there for beings to fling at you. But most importantly, it's there to connect with your fear. Your fear connects with your old fear stories. At this point, in other words, it's not even really about beings casting spells at you. Although I'm sure a lot of that is still going on, especially I know it was going on through the 888 portal, but right now the most important thing that you need to be focusing on is where does that energy live within you that wants to match up with all of the fear structures that are crumbling and looking to find a way to stay alive through you. I hope that makes sense, okay? So Mercury in Leo at 26 degrees. 26 is a degree of Taurus. Okay, so this is interesting because this is a lot of fixed sign energy we've been talking about today, right? We've been talking about the Scorpio Leo significance of 2024. Of course, the sun is in Leo, the moon was in Aquarius, Mercury is in Leo at a Taurus degree. Okay, so Taurus is the other fixed sign. This is all Wheel of Fortune energy. Okay, this is Wheel of Fortune energy. Fixed cross energy, Wheel of Fortune and the world. But right now, really honing in on that Wheel of Fortune energy. And the Wheel of Fortune, that ability to ride on the wheel of Dharma as opposed to being crushed back into another karmic cycle or loop, is all going to be dependent upon where your mind goes right now in accordance with who you know you are, but also your own estimation of your self-worth. That's the Taurus energy. What are you worth? What is your worth? Can it even be quantified? It shouldn't be. You shouldn't be able to have to. That's a false matrix metric. What you have, who you are, is unquantifiable. Okay, so these are more themes coming up that you're being spoken to, especially right now as you make decisions concerning your work, right? So a lot of what's happening, right, people are leaving old conventional ways of working left, right, and center. People are done. They're done with being slaves. They're done with building other beings' dreams. They're done. Okay? And that's because people are reconnecting with their worth. That's a Taurus energy. But Taurus is also the Divine Mother. The Divine Mother that comes to nurture us into the truth of who we are and helps us to build our sense of self-worth internally first through the Taurus energy. Becoming comfortable with being of value. That's Taurus energy. Becoming comfortable enough to know your value, to therefore follow your heart. That's Mercury in Leo. That's Leo and Taurus energy, and that's Mercury. So Mercury speaking that to us right now. Are you able to be so comfortable in your value? Are you able to sit and stand and to live so profoundly in that value that you have no problem with following where it is your heart is taking you, even if it's away from convention, even if it's away from, what you were told is what you need to do to survive in this realm? Are you so rooted in your value and your worth? Okay, these are the messages Mercury's bringing to us again, coming back because it's going back through this degree, right? And we'll go back through it again. Okay, are you rooted in your divine net worth? And if not, What do you need to do to get more rooted in it? Are you still allowing assholes to squander you? Are you squandering yourself? Are you squandering others? All important questions. Remember, you can't do to someone else what you're not already doing to self. All important questions. Furthermore, that 26 energy, it breaks down to an 8, which is the infinity, the number of now, of this year. And the 8 speaks of a splitting when 1 becomes 2. I've spoken about this before, how if you watch mitosis and how a cell divides, it will always, before it breaks, it will start off as a circle, right? The one cell. And when it's time for it to replicate, it will pull at both sides of the cell wall so much that it creates a dip that we call the cleavage, right? Until it resembles the infinity loop. And right before 2 come from the 1, it looks like the infinity loop, and then bloop, 2 separate cells. This is what we're dealing with right now in the birthing of the new earth and the leaving behind of the old. What side are you on? Right? That's that 8 number. Are you going to continue to ascribe your value to old world think? You know? Or are you so rooted in your value, your worth, your divinity, and the provision that comes because of that, that you are not succumbing or surrendering to being or doing or living below your truth? Because the new earth financial system is being built upon us, just like the old world one was. But the new earth financial system is based upon your ability to attune to the truth of your value. The old world value system was based upon keeping you asleep to your values so that they could create a false value system off of your toil and labor, off of your death and destruction and dysfunction. So, like, which story are you giving to more at this point? This is what Mercury is speaking. And it's not necessarily telling you you've got to make a decision right now. Mercury's just, speaking, letting you, giving you the time to decide for yourself, to use what you've been learning through Leo season, what Virgo is going to come and help you integrate. Mercury is just speaking to you right now. You don't have to jump and make any decisions yet, but you do need to be aware of what is happening. Okay, so this is not a time to, that it's time for you to leave a job, for example. It is not the time to have yourself swayed by that job to put you in fear or to make you think that things are changing, if you know that that's just what they say all the time to get you to stay, their narcissistic dangling carrot, future faking agenda that they use every single time you're about to walk away from something. You don't have to walk away yet, but you have to know the strategies. 7 of Swords. You have to know the strategies of other beings' agendas, and you have to know your value and where you stand, where it is you're going. You have to, sometimes you got to play the fool to fool the fool who thinks they're fooling you, right? That's the full moon in Aquarius at this Gemini degree, in this hot Gemini energy. That's what it's about too. Sometimes you got to fool the fool who thinks they're fooling you. Oh no, it goes, sometimes you got to play the fool to fool the fool who thinks they're fooling you. Okay, Venus. Venus is in Virgo, so very powerful mercurial energy again coming through this moon, because of course that Gemini degree of 27 is, a Mercury, therefore a Mercury degree. And then Venus in Virgo. Virgo is a mercurial, is ruled by Mercury. And then we've got Mars and Jupiter both in Gemini, so more Mercury, very mercurial energy. What does that tell us? That things are in flux. Nothing is established right now. Everything is just kind of wavy. And I spoke about this in my collaboration yesterday with the Starfire Codes on Substack. In the Full Moon in Aquarius article, I spoke about this, about how, you know, the, do I have, let's have this random piece of paper, I'll use this. Or I wonder if I can find it in a card. You know how, the glyph for the sun is also the same as the alchemical symbol for gold. And Leo is ruled by the sun, right? So the glyph for the sun is simply a circle with a dot in the center. Can I find it, or am I just going to have to do some really bad art for you guys? I think I'm just going to have to do some bad art. I could also just pull up the illustration I kind of put together on Canva and show you that too. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I don't know how well this is going to come out. And of course, I picked the pen that's not working. So that's the glyph for the sun, right? If you pull up an astrology chart, you'll see this next to the sun. That's the glyph for the sun. It's also the alchemical symbol for gold, right? That center dot is where all things that come into existence come from. Now also think about it this way. The sun aligns you with your heart energy through Leo. Leo aligns you with the heart and the solar plexus. Why? Because everything birthed materially comes by way of the heart. Okay, it comes through the emotional fields. Okay, everything that expresses itself through you is coming through your heart energy. Whether that heart energy is clouded or not, it doesn't matter. In other words, what creates your fields, energetically speaking, is the resonance that's coming through your heart, which is why when you're in fear, you are easily you're malleable and you are easily manipulated, because when you're in fear, it allows things in towards you more easily. When you are standing and rooted in yourself and you know who the fuck you are and you're like, I wish a bitch would kind of energy, then that puts other energies in fear of you, and they're not trying to come at you or come close. But that message is sent out through your heart resonance. Okay, so this is why even you can sense a shift in someone's energy. It's through your heart acts like a scanner. You know, like those scanners that the QR codes is what I tell people. Your heart is like constantly picking up the QR codes of everything that's going on, and it's feeding it back to you and telling you the true nature of everything that's around you. And then you've been taught through the false matrix to reprogram what it is that you are picking up, which is authentic. You've been taught to use your mind to program yourself away from that. Okay? This is what we are undoing through this energy right now. There will be no more, and this is what Libra season will come in and like put its like, you know, like put its gold dust upon, because Libra and Leo work very closely together to alchemize your energy into alignment. Okay, so the Libra energy is here to help you really learn how to trust your own heart and to use your mind and your heart together, instead of using your mind to talk yourself out of what your heart is scanning and bringing in and speaking to you. Okay, so this dot in the center represents many things, but it is the beginning of energy, but it's also the establishment of your energy. Okay, now the Aquarius energy is those waves. So the Aquarius energy is how your energy goes out into the world. It's how you send out, how your energy has a ripple effect on the collective energy, you could say. Okay, so it's through the Leo energy that you learn how to not only establish your energy, but to also learn what it's going to be that you take out into the world. Okay, so you could say through this energy, and it's not just through the full moon in Aquarius or even just through Leo season, but it's through so many other planetary things that have been occurring. I just had a client on Sunday, and we dove deep into these energies together. There's a new algorithm that is coming into play on the planet. There's a new algorithm. And so this Leo energy is helping you set yourself in accordance with the algorithm you're going to have. Is your algorithm going to be in alignment with the new algorithm? Is it going to pick up on who you are and help you to be who it is you came here to be? Or is the algorithm going to shun you and reject you because you're not in alignment with what it wants? Everything they created is off of us. Algorithms are real. Okay, so the algorithm of the universe has been catered, because it's been played with. It was catered towards their nefarious agendas. But the inversion has been flipped. The new algorithm is being established, especially now that they no longer have control of the grids. And the only way that you will be successful and you will rise in this new earth is if your algorithm is rooted in your authentic truth, because that's the only algorithm that the new earth is supporting. Boom. Okay. Venus in Virgo at 18 degrees. So Venus is expressing itself through Virgo at a Virgo degree. A lot of Virgo energy, right? Virgo degree, Gemini tarot energy. Meaning that 18 degrees astrologically is connected to Virgo, but 18 is connected to the moon card and the lover's card in the tarot. So it's both Gemini and the moon, so Pisces energy, Cancerian energy. I see the moon card more as being Cancer energy than Pisces, but ho-hum. Anyway, you can see it as both, however you want to see it. So Venus in Virgo. Venus is all about us connecting with our creativity to birth beauty back on the planet. To birth pleasure, to birth all of those things that help us to live beautifully and therefore harmoniously, because living in beauty helps us to be in harmony with ourselves, one another, and the earth. And that's what Venus is here to help us do, helps us birth beauty and birth our creation. So Virgo energy is one of the signs of the zodiac that helps to liberate us, but it's also the sign that helps to organize us. It helps us to take what it is that we are learning about from our hearts, from what we've taken in. It helps us to begin to discern it properly. So where Gemini opens us up to a whole bunch of information, Virgo helps us to discern it. And this is why it's going to be very, very important right now to know who you are through this Virgo season, because there's a lot of Virgo and Gemini energy flying, which means there's a lot of information, a lot of mental energy, a lot of a propensity to fall into stories that don't align with our truth, a lot of, ability for group energies, group think, to use smoke screens and mirrors to take us out of our truth. But Virgo is here to help us connect only with those streams of information that we need for our own agendas. And our own agendas are those that support our divinity and our truth and what it is we came here to do in this new age of Aquarius. So that's how Virgo is supporting us. But it's very interesting because that degree of connected to the moon card is also speaking about the shadow energies that are going to want to come and taint this. And understand and overstand, as much as beings can try to throw things at you, those shadow energies are the ones within yourself. You cannot be deceived by something outside of you if you're not living in self-deception internally. And this is what Virgo comes to clean up. Virgo comes to make sure that we rise into internal states of integrity. Virgo calls us to be radically honest with ourselves, what our hearts want, what our hearts are picking up on. That's what Virgo does, so that we can therefore begin to put ourselves into rightful order and alignment, so that what we are calling into us come Libra season from other beings and all this other stuff is not in alignment with, timeline. We're not pulling in timelines that aren't in alignment with our truth. That's what Virgo, this is why through Virgo season, every year I tell people, Virgo season is the time to be radically honest. It doesn't matter how dark you think you feel about something or someone, or it doesn't matter. Be honest about yourself. Be honest to yourself. To thine own self be true. That's that Virgo energy. And if you do that, Virgo will help you to put your mind and your heart in rightful order for what promotes your next level, evolutionally speaking. Okay, so this is what Venus is helping us to do, especially as the Sun gets ready to move into Virgo, and then when Mercury stations to go direct, it will be going through Virgo too. Okay, so Mars in Gemini, we've already spoken a lot about Mars and Gemini. Okay, but let's dive into a little bit of the numbers here. So Mars in Gemini at 19 degrees. Now 19 is a degree that connects us to the Sun card in the Tarot. Therefore, it is also Leo energy. 19, by the time you get to the Sun card, the 19 degree card, this is the card that speaks of getting to this glyph, which means you've gotten back to a place of wholeness, where the emotional resonance you carry in your wholeness is what is going to start calling into you things that match who you are wholly, as opposed to all of those fucked up timelines you once were magnetizing when you were fragmented. So the Sun is all about being whole, being true, being authentically in yourself. Okay, so 19 astrologically connects you to Libran energy. So this is about the balancing of scales, but very specifically the balancing of the mental and the emotional realms. In other words, the balancing of your heart with your mind. No longer using your mind to overwrite your heart. Okay, and then for other beings, no longer allowing your heart to be so loud that you don't tune into any kind of logic. It goes both ways. Okay, so Mars is here fighting, because a lot of the time what put you out of balance to do either thing was the mind control and the fear tactics of the false matrix. So Mars is fighting through not only the mind control systems, but it's helping you fight where that mind control energy has been controlling your consciousness internally in terms of how you interact with yourself and use your own mind and heart in making decisions, in creating, in moving forward in life. Mars in Gemini is helping you to fight for that sense of internal integrity. Jupiter is right alongside Mars, opening you up. Jupiter, of course, is the ruling planet of Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is Gemini's sister sign, because Gemini opens your mind to everything. And Sagittarius, by the time you get to Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the sign that helps you to travel. And what I mean when I say travel, it helps you to go everywhere based upon your emotional resonance. It helps you to timeline jump when you no longer have all of these fucking restrictions in the false matrix. It helps you to close your eyes and feel and imagine that you're in a place and you're there. because you have that ability to do that, to teleport and all of that. It's based upon your ability to connect with your heart and your mind to create the image that you want in your mind, the feeling that you want to just take you there immediately. That's what they've been teaching you in manifestation, right? But that was happening in slow time. But for many of you, the reason why all of this manifestation stuff doesn't work for you isn't because you're not good at it. It's because you are advanced or high frequency beings who your soul remembers and knows how to do these things instantly, and you get agitated when you can't. You don't even realize that, but you get agitated, which is why a lot of you give up easily. It's not that you lack faith or you lack it. It's because you're used to being able to close your eyes, think something, feel something, and have it instantly. Wouldn't that frustrate you? If you can do that, then all of a sudden they're telling you to wait for material time, days, weeks, months, for something that once upon a time you could do like this, and your soul still remembers that? Yes. Okay. So yeah, Jupiter in Gemini is helping you to remember that also. 17 degrees is a tarot association again with Aquarius. So 17 is the star card. This is speaking about when the stars and the planets come into alignment, because you're in alignment, right? They come into alignment to help you do what it is you came here to do, because you're in alignment with yourself. So this is when the stars, the planet, everything starts to support you. So Jupiter in Gemini, 17 degrees, helping you to come into such profound alignment to break out of the mind control, that everything starts to support you in your reality also for this new age of Aquarius. 17 degrees is also astrologically a degree of Leo. So 17 is both Leo and Aquarius energy. We have Jupiter expressing itself through Gemini at that degree yesterday. We also have Saturn expressing herself through this degree in Pisces, right? So I think this is where that Jupiter-Saturn square is happening, right? Both mutable energies, Gemini, yep, both mutable energies, both energies that speak about integration. Pisces speaks more about the integration of the whole, so a very focused on the emotional body, but how everything comes into being, with it being the final sign on the zodiac wheel right now. So Saturn in Pisces, it's dealing right now also with the karmic energies that have kept us out of alignment. Very specifically, the karmic energies that have kept us out of alignment in the previous age and are still seeking to keep us out of alignment and out of the new age. Right? So Pisces, we're dealing with the age of Pisces for one thing, but we're also dealing with Pisces as an energy. And as the ruler of the 12th house, the final sign on the zodiac wheel, Pisces is very powerful to liberate you out of grand cycles, eras, eons. But just as powerful as it is to liberate, it's as powerful on the polar opposite end to entrap you. And this is why the age of Pisces was so powerful for keeping us collectively in this false matrix trap. Okay, so Saturn is working with us to regulate, bring things back into divine order. For as long as we are choosing to be in divine order internally, Saturn is helping us to align with all of the cosmic help we have available to us. And it's also dealing with these energies that have blocked us. And remember, the main block is always going to be internal. When you've dealt with the internal block that matches the external manifestation, even when it's presenting itself through other beings, those energies cannot fuck with you anymore. They can't. What you've done is literally you've created like a vaccination. You've taken the very thing that they tried to use to get to you. You've learned how to wield it with power, and you've created a shield against it. That's kind of what it is. So I'm going to close it out here because this is a long ass reading. I will just touch on the fact that the nodes are 8, right? 8 degrees Aries, 8 degrees Libra, 8 energy. Again, what I'm getting here with this 8 energy, again, is the splitting, the infinity, when one thing has replicated and becomes 2. Okay, so this is a very major point of the year through this 888 portal with the nodes at 8 degrees also now. Very major point in where people are going to be standing and what's going to happen next in everyone's material reality. Okay, so the chasm between the old world and the new earth has just leapt even farther apart. You might have even felt that in the past few days, like literally there was so much fuckery going on with even connecting with things, you know, like even like the internet, technology, a lot of stuff. You can blame it on Mercury retrograde all you want. I don't really subscribe to that way of thinking when it comes to the Mercury retrograde. Okay, I have a whole different view on that. But I will say every time there's a magnanimous shift in energy, you'll notice this. And because we're dealing with Aquarian energy, internet, groups, New Age, all of that, that might be where some of you experienced it too, because there's a great pulling away further, okay? Now, Libra and Aries energy are again about sovereignty. Aries is about the sovereignty that comes from reconnecting to source. Libra is about the sovereignty that comes from being fully recompensed with self, based upon your Aries energy, enough to go out in the world and be sovereign amongst others. Okay, so all of this is preparing us now to stop playing these fucked up codependent games that had us all breaking our own hearts and one another's hearts, and in social war zones, really, on social media, in community, family. All of these structures were designed to keep us quantumly entangled and out of true frequential alignment, so that we weren't able to love and be properly loved. And all of this shit is being given an exit point through this full moon, for as long as we are ready to dive deep and to see where we've been complicit in it and shut that shit down in ourselves first. Okay, so I think I'm going to close out here. Oh, I just noticed Chiron is at 23 degrees Aries. Interesting, because 23 is a degree of Aquarius, but I'm going to leave it there because this has been a very, very long video. I hope it was helpful and insightful. Again, I thank you for your patience with me in getting this out to you about 24 hours later. But for those of you who are supposed to get this message, you're here. And that's all I ask for. Okay, so I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you this week in group sessions, and if not, and some of you again on Substack, and if not, then I will see you again next time for the new moon in Virgo at 11 degrees when the gates open up. Okay, take care.